Welcome to Cultivating Courage, a podcast exploring fear, courage, and stepping into a life filled with purpose, connection, and love. This episode, we look at leaping to conclusions and assigning meaning when there is none, and the economics of dog shelters. Welcome to another episode of Cultivating Courage. I am your host, Kristin Robinson. I am the owner and head coach at Thrive Coaching Studio. We do individual coaching and workshops to help women explore fear and the things that are holding them back and step into their greatness. I am joined today, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Matt Maxwell. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Matt Maxwell. I'm a professional coach, an organizational culture change consultant.
Love it.
And an actor and an LSAT instructor. I don't think I've mentioned that in the podcast yet.
Also an excellent volleyball player if you guys need a sub anytime.
Yeah, if you need a sub in an
rec league. To be clear.
Or like a really bad intermediate league.
Probably just a rec league.
Yeah, it's been like 3 years since I played volleyball, if I'm really being honest. But I do like it. And this episode is going to be spectacular.
Yeah, kick it off, Matt.
Well, once a year. We just do this once a year, but we have a jokes episode. And all we do is just exchange our favorite jokes back and forth.
I personally am a big fan of dad jokes, so lucky.
It's just like a Prairie Home Companion. You know, they used to do that. Yes. Their jokes
My
episode.
grandparents used to actually like watch that.
I went and watched it at Red
live?
Rocks.
Oh, wow.
Live at Red Rocks. Garrison Keillor. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Do we now seem older than we once did?
I use my
5 minutes
grandparents
ago?
as a reference. So
Okay. I also play video games. Awesome.
Matt was up until 2 a.m. last night playing Apex.
So he says, but
Right.
he might have gone to sleep sooner.
Right. Allegedly.
All right. We're going to think about talking about possibility.
I'm just thinking about it right now.
Yeah. So our last recorded episode, we had an awesome discussion with our guest about kind of really getting present to what we really want in our life.
Yep.
And how one of the things that can get in the way of that is that we don't see what we want as even possible.
Yes. Huge roadblock.
What are you taking from that conversation?
I think I had kind of forgotten almost because I think sometimes it goes as a ebb and a flow in our life too. And for me right now, I'm lucky enough to be in the phase of seeing like everything as possible for the most part. And so it was a great reminder that like it's not always that way. And just a reminder to explore like, okay, so the things that like you're not actively going after right now, what are you hiding from? And look at it from that place of possibility instead. Yeah. I think that's kind of where I was at with that.
And is there anything that's coming up for you that you see as like, oh, I've been holding that as impossible?
I mean, I feel like a broken record, but like just a relationship that is fun, easy, supportive. Like, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's in the relationship world.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I see like for my career, I see all the things that I want and I see them as possible. So I mean, what other areas of life are there? Career and relationships. I mean, friendships. I feel good in my friendships. Like, yeah. I mean, for the most part, I really like am excited about life. But the conversation with our guest reminded me like, oh, there's probably areas that you are not coming at it from possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so cool to look at. I love looking at it because it can massively expand the opportunities that are available to us if we're willing to just change what we think is possible.
Yeah.
And declare it possible.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's an excellent book on this. It's one of my favorite books.
Okay. We'll put it on the list.
Yeah. It's called The Last Word on Power by Tracy Goss, I think.
Yep.
an incredible book. And the first third's kind of boring, truthfully. And so a lot of people
Hang
won't
in
get
there.
through that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you could even just kind of skim through it. But when I first started, I was like, okay, I got to do these things and I got to look at this. And I was just kind of like, okay, what am I even getting from this?
Yeah.
Some good stuff. But it starts to open up eventually. And when it opens up, it like totally changed my world.
Yeah. So for the audience on the website, cultivatingcouragepodcast.com, there is a reading list. So all of the books that we reference in any episode they're all listed on that reading list. So you can, if you think, oh, I'm driving and I can't write this down right now, no worries. We got you.
Yeah, come check it out. So one of the things that I love to look at, because I get into impossibility all over the place.
Yeah. What's the biggest impossibility for you?
Well, the
currently?
biggest impossibility for me, I go back and forth in my career. I see the possibility and work from there. And then some days it just kind of seems like, what am I doing? And I'm going to have to go back to a job I hate in order to make money. So that kind of goes back and forth. I think for me, the place where, just based on how my life's gone, what seems impossible is that I could be in a really happy, loving, amazing partnership with somebody. And so I have to kind of constantly represence myself to the possibility of that. There's evidence that people have really amazing, fantastic relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
But oftentimes, based on how our lives have gone, we kind of tend to think like,
Right.
not for me. And what's interesting about that is if we get present to one of the things that can create the sense of impossibility. I had a friend, I thought this was awesome, who is in a relationship project. She is, as we would say in coach world, she's working on creating a new relationship in her romantic partnership world. In other words, she's dating. She's single and dating and looking for a relationship.
Yeah.
That's probably how normal.
That's how normal people say it. Coaches say relationship
A relationship project. I don't know. Some coaches would say that.
Other people call it dating.
Yeah, basically. Don't you want to be in a relationship project? Oh, just get over here. Okay, let's go back to where we were at. So, dating,
Yes.
which some people would call
A relationship
project. Well, here's the
project.
thing. In coaching, sometimes this is just in my particular. Sometimes we'll just change our vocabulary, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just we bring so much context and story. Goals are this. If I'm working towards a goal, that means it's something that I could fail at, and resolutions and right. There's different things that we use to describe changes we want to
Yeah.
make. That
Yep.
sometimes we just bring a lot of garbage.
Yeah.
Like story about. So in coach world, we'll just change the language to help people get rid of all
Yeah.
that
It
garbage.
means the same thing, but then
Oh.
you don't have like
The association.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so a project instead of a goal that I'm working towards.
When you said project, I thought you meant like a high maintenance person.
Oh, I see. I have a project.
Yeah.
I gotcha. No, this is more like it's a project I'm working on. And like another way to describe it would just be like a game. I'm playing a game, and the game is the way you win it is by having an amazing relationship.
Yeah. Or you're practicing.
Yeah.
But I don't like that either. Sorry.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah, because dating, I mean,
right.
Oh, it
People,
kinda-
there's
There's like a
connotations there too.
negative
But the point
connotation
is
with
like
it.
the game thing might actually apply to anything. I have a game of creating an amazing career. I have a game of earning $1 million. I'm playing a game of, and it's just a way of phrasing it that takes out the seriousness of it. Someone's like, it's very serious. Oh, I'm just playing a game.
got it.
I mean, it's like playing Chutes and Ladders, and the game for me is I want to have an incredible family, and we'll see how it goes. But I like playing the game.
Yeah. So your friend that's dating.
Yes. The point of this was that we were talking. She's like, I want this relationship, and she's getting a really clear vision of what she wants. And I wasn't her coach, just her friend, so we'd talk about it a lot. And so as a friend, I'd be like, well, why not try this or why not try that? And one of the ways people find potential partners now is through dating apps.
Right.
So she's like, okay, I'm going to try Bumble, which is at this point probably the biggest one still.
I don't know if it's the
one of them.
biggest, but it's one
of the big ones.
One of the big ones, yeah.
Anyways, she's like, I'm going to try Bumble. And I'm like, awesome. And the next week I talked to her and I was like, how'd it go? What's going on? She's like, I tried it for a couple of hours and it didn't work, so now I'm off of it.
A couple of hours.
Yeah, a couple of hours.
I mean, it's a commitment
Yeah.
to be on dating apps.
Right. I mean, it is. And there's some work there and whatever, you know, and you go on some dates. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I don't know how to argue with this logic other than to say your sample size is probably too small to make a definitive determination about what might be available to you through Bumble.
Yeah.
You know? But that's how we do life. So it's like, for me, what seems impossible is that I could have this really supportive, loving partnership where I'm truly happy and contented to be with that person.
Yeah.
And why does that seem impossible? Because I have never really experienced that in the way that I really want to.
Yeah.
Right? And my sample size of relationships relative to all of the possibilities of relationship is incredibly small. But I'm making this determination about what's possible based on this tiny little sample size of what I've experienced so far. So a lot of times our story is, well, this is the way it went for me. I tried that thing once.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. So it never works. We leap to these like massive logical conclusions.
Right.
And make things mean way more than they might actually mean.
All the time.
Yep.
You
I agree.
I went on a date with an accountant. They were boring.
All accountants
Therefore,
are boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it becomes impossible that I could go on a good date with an accountant. I guess that doesn't really matter. But all right. So that's one thing that came to me was how we create what's impossible. I have another thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, I want you to say it.
Okay, cool. Okay, and that is that playing with declaring things possible can get really fun, not only in the big picture. So it might be like, I declare the possibility of a dog shelter that I run and I make a ton of money doing it. And that's the game I'm going to play. It's creating that, right? It might be like big life possibility.
Yeah.
What I've also seen for me is really powerful is declaring possibility in a really small scale.
Yeah. For example.
I declare the possibility of having a good day today.
Yeah.
That's so big.
What do you
that
see
feels
there?
big to you?
Yeah. I feel like just waking up and saying that, like, you set the tone for like what your day is going to be. You
Yeah.
try to like keep that in mind throughout your day, even though it just goes to hell.
Some days. Some days.
Hence why I want a dog shelter.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so looking at what seems impossible to me in this moment, what do I want to experience in this moment that seems impossible? And sometimes it truly is that I won't hate my next hour.
Right.
It seems like there's no way of getting through this workday.
Yep.
Well, maybe you're going to have a rough work day, but if you think it's going to be rough,
For sure. It's going to
you're
be
probably going to create that,
Yeah.
you know? And so for me, it's been really cool on a small scale to notice what seems impossible that I really want to experience.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that can really relate to the everyday person right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, when you get up in the morning, it's like you have to set the tone for the day
Yeah.
and kind of remind yourself throughout the day that you want it to be a good day
Yeah.
because it can really take a turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all about like being mindful of switching your brain to think that there's a possibility that, you know.
Maybe it'll go this way. It's like 12 Angry Men. Have you seen that?
No.
It's like the jurors and it's kind of old school. So it's
It
like,
is old school.
it's an amazing movie. And there's newer versions of it, but in the original, it's Henry Fonda is like the main guy. And he's just kind of, you don't even know anybody's name. It's just them in the jury room deliberating about this crime. And everybody's convinced at the beginning that this guy totally did it. And he's kind of the only guy that's like, well, I'm not, maybe, but I'm not. And they're like, do you think there's any way that he could not have? He's like, well, it's possible. And everybody starts saying, maybe we should just look at it a little bit more. So they start going through the evidence and, well, do you think he could have really? And it's possible. And he just keeps saying it's possible the whole movie. And he's not like, he's just like, it's possible. And eventually everybody changes their mind and they realize basically this person totally didn't do it. Spoiler alert. Sorry, everybody.
But that's so like interesting about the conversation and how that kind of bleeds into it. Yeah.
And it's just kind of this space. And I love how he's just like, it's possible. And so that was it. I lost where I was going.
I can't help you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. What do you have to say?
I have to.
Oh, I know what I want to say. This is great. This is great. It's the what I think is fun too about the practice of declaring things possible, and just it's like practicing. It's like creating a space for the possibility.
Yeah.
There's like a space where I'm operating in
Yep.
the possibility of it being a great day. And what'll happen is that, for me at least, if it's like I want to have a positive attitude, you know, so I'm going to wake up and look in the mirror. I'm like, today's going to be a great day, right?
Do you say that about your hair?
Today I'm going to look great hair. And my hair's like, yes, I
It's
am.
like Zoolander.
So yeah, it is. And then I just like practice my looks in the mirror.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm in it.
Possibility.
Yeah, I'm declaring
You're
the possibility
creating a
that my
space.
hair won't look so bad today. No, but what'll happen? I mean, I think it's awesome to have this like really strong affirmation. But what we know is that sometimes we do have rough days.
Yeah.
And so if I say, I know, no matter what, today's going to be good, maybe it'll be creative. That's pretty powerful. But for me, there's a pushback that's like, no, sometimes life happens.
Yeah.
And something happens to your dog. And it doesn't matter how positive you were. That stinks,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's what I love about a practice of possibility is that it takes into account that life can go a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And maybe some rough things will happen today.
Yep.
I'm just living in the possibility of it being a great day, or the possibility of a career that I love, or a relationship that's amazing. And that's what I'm creating a possibility for and working towards.
Right.
But that's not to say that life is going to do that.
Right.
It may, and I'm living with that possibility, but it for me, I don't get as much pushback mentally. When I just say like, I know this is going to be good, my psyche's just like, well, life
except
does
you
all kinds of crazy
don't.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can't anticipate that. So I love a possibility practice because it opens up that space for me, and usually it does get created
Yeah.
from that place. But I don't get as much mental resistance as I would if I were like, no matter what, today will be
Yeah.
good. 'Cause who knows how today will go.
Yeah.
It's true. And taking into consideration, though, like if you do hit something that is somewhat of a pothole during your day, like you can go back to, well, it's possible it could get better.
Exactly. From any place.
Yeah.
You can like continue to
Yeah,
declare.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's really fun, I mean, I think this is where it actually gets to be like an insane sensation of personal power, is when something truly seems to be impossible and you declare it possible and you fulfill on it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. There's some amazing moments where I've been like, I don't see a way through this. And I'm like, all right, I'm declaring it possible. That X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And then from there, I started to go, well, if I were living in that future, how would I have gotten here? Right? So I'm going to put myself there and look backwards and just ask, how did I get here?
Yeah. I think that's part of where people get stuck a lot of times is you want to declare it possible, but then it's just, I think the human mind is like, okay, well, what steps then do you need to take to get there? And we try and say, well, first I do this, first I do this, first I do this. And maybe steps 1 and 2 seem possible, but step 3, you're like, oh, I can't, like, there's no way that I can make that happen. Whereas if you come at it from backwards and you say, okay, I'm going to stand in this place and declare this as possible, like, and I'm going to, like, I say daydream, like if I'm going to daydream about being in this place, like, let me think about, like, then not from here to there, but from there back to here, like, how did that happen? Who did I meet? Like, what did I talk about? What did I do? Or what did I not do? You know, what was I open to along the way? I mean, I think that's part of it too, is you just never know, for me, especially who you're going to meet, what conversation you're going to have that could totally blow things open. And if you're not open to those possibilities, you know, I really feel like the universe, God, spirit, whatever you believe or don't believe, like, I really feel like it wants you to succeed, and it will. I think we've had this conversation. This might be a broken record conversation anyway, but I really think like if you want to be here and you declare it possible, then the universe is already like making it happen for you, or already has made it happen for you. And like
it's an option for you.
Yeah. And you just have to be open to
putting in the work to get there.
And everything, not just the work, but like, I guess I open to things that don't seem even related to that end goal. Like being open to things that, like your cousin's brother's aunt that you sat down next to at the wedding, and you're just chit-chatting and you don't think anything about it. And then it turns out like her neighbor does whatever, and then she goes and talks to her neighbor about how, I met this really nice girl at this wedding. She's so passionate about like opening this dog shelter. And the neighbor is like, we've actually been looking for some sort of organization to like get involved with, and we want to create some sort of foundation. And then boom, like all because you were like open to talking about this thing that excites you with somebody that you had no expectation of. Like you just never know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I went way off of where we were headed, but
I could take this down a different path too.
Oh.
Like, what if you're not open to having those conversations sometimes?
Why aren't you? What
Because
about
you're
those
closed off to meeting new people or exploring those new conversations.
What about
because it's an effort.
Oh, an effort.
Some people, I don't know who that would be, are comfortable with their own set of friends and maybe aren't as open to exploring new options and friendships and just chatting with people. For example, sitting down next to them at a wedding, etc. So, does that make sense?
It does, but I think that it's up to that person to decide, right? Like, what do I want my life to be?
True.
It sounds like we're not talking about this hypothetically.
That is welcome, Matt.
I picked up on that.
Thank you. Good job.
Well, it's not a problem.
But I just brought it up. Okay.
Right. It's I don't really feel like talking to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that.
Yeah.
And
but
there may be other experiences we really... Right. So maybe there is a sense of, I feel comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perfect example of what everything we're talking about is what we're talking about.
Well done.
Thanks.
Is this one really going to air?
Was that eloquent or what? Yeah, this is going to air.
This is going up next
There's
week.
some gold in here. No, it's really beautiful because this isn't the truth, but it's one way of looking at things, which is that we operate within a comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that comfort zone may not actually be great. It may be pretty rotten, or it may just be okay, or it may be great. But the reason we're in it is because it's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And there's things that we're afraid of. And particularly, we're the deepest fears are usually about what people might think about me. And so I need to make sure they don't think those things. And I need to make sure that no one thinks they're true. And I don't even think they're true. And so I'm not going to talk to anybody. Because within my comfort zone, I can keep myself protected. Okay? And so there's like this whole system of survival for all of us that if we were to just follow that would keep us within our comfort zone. And basically everything in the comfort zone is what we know. And what we don't know is outside of it. And so what we don't know is what will that person say? Your friends, the people you already know, you
Right.
get to predict that,
Right.
right? Somebody new, what will they say?
Yep.
How will I respond? I wouldn't be able to protect myself and prove that I am this way, that I want to make sure everybody thinks I am, right? And so I'm just going to stay in my comfort zone, which is fine if that's what you want.
Yep.
But for most of us, most of the things that we really want that we don't yet have are outside of the comfort zone.
Yes.
If they
Yes.
were in the comfort zone, we would already
Right.
have them.
We wouldn't be yearning for anything else.
Right, which is fine, which would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, but for most of us, there are things in life that we yearn for that we don't have. And in order to have them, we have to go outside of the comfort zone. And there's a secret way to go outside of the comfort zone and not have
How?
it be so uncomfortable.
How
Tell
is
us.
that? Yeah.
By the way, this is like a shortened version of like an hour and a half conversation I have with a lot of my clients.
Okay.
But one thing that you can do to change your mindset is to look at how you really see yourself and realize it's perfect as it is and there's nothing to protect. There's nothing I need anybody to think about me. I'm just awesome. Or I might say I'm love. I'm connection, I'm joy. That's what I am. And from there, I can do all kinds of things because there's nothing to protect.
Yeah. I think there's absolute power in knowing who you are at your core
Yeah.
and being able to stand in that.
And coming from that. And most of us aren't used to that,
Yeah,
right?
no.
But if
Yeah.
I can come from there, we might call that our true nature or our essence. Or I like to think of it as like, what was magical about me when I came into the world, right? You look at an infant and you're like, they're just perfect, right? And that perfection still is here. But we all picked up a bunch of stories along the way that we're not that thing.
Yep.
And we operate most of the time from being worried that people will think we're shitty, lazy, bad, boring, whatever.
Yep.
And so if I can step out of that and just come from my essence, then there's nothing to protect. And then when I have a new conversation with somebody, I don't care what they think.
I don't know that that's what this person.
What's going on for you?
I don't feel that that's accurate for me. I just feel like it's so much energy.
But
At
that's
times.
exactly it. What is taking the energy?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's energy for me to create a conversation with somebody that I don't know.
Exactly. And can I tell you what I think it is?
Yeah.
Is because you have to be on high alert to make sure you present yourself well so that they see you in a certain way. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it is
Yeah, I
for
don't
me.
know either.
I'm projecting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I totally get it. And I go to networking events and I'm just like, oh, I can't do
Oh,
this.
it's painful.
I can't. I just can't.
Yeah.
Because it seems to require so much energy, and it does if I'm operating from there.
Right.
Yep.
Because I've got to keep protecting myself, and I got to see, like, are they cool with this conversation?
Right.
Am I asking the right questions? Am I
Yeah.
doing all the things I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be doing?
Are
Right.
they engaged? Are they bored?
Yeah.
Like,
Right?
do they think I'm an
it
idiot?
does take a lot of
Yeah.
energy.
I guess you're right. I never looked at it from that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another way it could go is I can just be, and that's another way to look at like coming from true nature or
Yeah.
our core is
But
like
some people are just more outgoing in general and are able to have those conversations. And I don't know that it's necessarily that they're comfortable with like themselves. Because I know there's a lot of people
Yeah.
out there that
No,
lack confidence
exactly.
that are
Yeah.
still super outgoing and can have those conversations
Yeah.
and connections.
Yeah, great
Yeah.
point. So the way that I would phrase that or look at that is they have other ways of protecting themselves.
Ah, okay.
It's within their comfort zone to have those conversations.
Yeah.
There's other things that are outside of their
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe they're the really smiley outgoing types.
Yeah.
And that's comfortable for them.
Right.
Right. So it's not that we all have the same comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's just, I think for any of us, there are the things that we're comfortable doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm an actor. I love getting on stage. I get a little bit of stage fright sometimes, but mostly I'm just like, awesome, put me in front of 100 people.
Wow.
And it's comfortable for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a way that like a heart-to-heart conversation with a friend where I tell them something they've done that's displeased me or that's been hurtful to me, that scares the shit out of me. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's outside of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's different. What those things will be, I think, are different for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again, it's not the truth. It's just one way. But for me, it's been helpful to start to see. We were talking about some of your career choices earlier, right? and there's a pull of the comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it gets really confusing because what wants to stay comfortable is pulling me away from something, even though in my heart I think maybe I really
That's
want
what
that.
I want over there.
Right.
So for me, it's been helpful to have this perspective because it helps me get clear on a little bit more clarity on, oh, if I weren't coming from self-defense and needing people to think about me a certain way,
Yeah.
then what would I want to do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It changes everything. I mean,
It
it
does.
changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
What are you thinking about? What are you seeing?
No, I just never looked at it from that perspective. So, yeah. So going to a networking event, I think, might shift my thinking a little bit.
It's a
Yeah.
great place to practice.
Mm-hmm.
So at
hate
least for
it.
me, something like that,
Yeah.
because it's still out of my comfort zone.
Oh, mine
Mm-hmm.
too.
So when it's-
Really? But so we are friends. You're so good at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I find it a little bit humorous. Like everyone that knows me assumes I think, I mean, I haven't asked everyone I know if they think this about me.
oh no, I did a survey.
Oh, you did?
We asked
Okay. Well,
everybody.
Matt did it, so it must be true. Most people I think I am an extrovert, like for sure. And I am not by any means. I would say I'm more like, I'm probably 50-50, but I would say probably even closer, like 40 introvert. Are you rolling your eyes at them?
No, I just burped.
Oh,
Sorry.
see, every time.
I
something.
pulled the microphone. I'm so sorry. I pulled the microphone away so that nobody would hear it.
And then
even
I
though it was
asked
really
him
quiet.
about it, and so now you
No,
all
and
know
then I
anyway.
just looked at the camera as I did that. I'm like, they're gonna know I burped. So I made a face at them, like, sorry, I did just burp.
And then I thought you were anyway. It's a good show. Yeah, so I think a lot of people think that about me, but I'm 100% out of my comfort zone when I'm doing that. And for networking for me now, because I'm so excited about creating my possibility, that I just do it.
Right.
Like I hate it the whole time, almost the whole time. I hate it, and I'm uncomfortable doing it.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I think it's like there's things that seem really scary.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking to somebody can seem super scary.
Yeah.
And there's a thing we can practice, which is I'm doing it anyway. And it requires energy.
Mm-hmm.
It can be exhausting
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much of our survival system
Yeah,
that's
pushing
saying,
away
don't
from it.
do this.
Yeah.
And so there's so much resistance
Yeah.
to push through that. It takes a ton of energy. And sometimes I'm going to do it anyway.
Right.
Yep.
And I can't get out of the fear, but I'm going to push through it. And it does take a lot of
Yeah.
energy,
Yeah.
you know? And there, I think, are possibilities of other places we can come from. And this is where possibility comes in. Possibility can give us access to getting out of the comfort zone and not having it be so difficult or energy taking.
Yeah.
So it might be the possibility of enjoying my conversation with this person,
Right.
right? And if I can
Yeah.
switch to there, maybe there won't be as much resistance.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny though is that like going to networking events, once I do start a conversation with somebody, it's usually great,
Yeah.
but it's just the actual like,
Getting
yeah,
there.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yep.
totally.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Awesome. So I kind of want to set a practice at the end of
Oh, yeah.
this.
That sounds great.
Is this the end of this? I feel like it's a good stop.
It's a great point.
If you're feeling good.
I'm good.
Is there anything else you want to tell everybody?
Yeah.
No.
Well, let's just imagine. That seems uncomfortable.
Yes.
Protection.
I
No,
mean,
thank
Well, it just occurs to
Exit
me.
this podcast
that we
the
had
same
this
way
great
I came in.
conversation
I'm
with
just
you.
set the mic down and walk away.
We had this
no.
great conversation with you in our last episode, and you were really generous in sharing what you're up to and just being earnest about it. And it occurs to me like maybe the 20 million people listening, or our mothers,
Hey, it starts with 2.
yeah, that this might be the time that you get to share something you've learned in your life that might be really valuable for them.
Oh boy.
Not to put you on the spot.
Wow.
You can't do it
He
wrong.
does this to me all the time.
Yeah.
That's a mic drop leave
So
moment.
welcome.
Strength, I guess. Perseverance. So going through rough times, just keeping on going. I mean, you just get through it. I think that was the one thing when you say that I've learned through life. Like, you're going to hit some really tough times in life, and you just got to keep going.
Amen.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself a shot at another day.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so setting a practice. I think it should be around possibility. Nothing like,
I got a couple.
okay, good. Yeah, because sometimes things are like, boom, I know exactly what we should practice or what I want to practice. And then
Yeah.
other times I'm like, I know I want it to be around this, but I'm not sure what.
Well, I think it's a two-parter.
Okay, good.
One is to just notice right now in your life what seems impossible
Yeah.
that you want.
Yep.
And to look both big picture
Mm-hmm.
and maybe in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
You're heading to an event that seems like it's going to stink.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or you're in a career that you really want something else. Or right, big picture, little picture.
Mm-hmm.
Notice what seems impossible. That I could change careers and be really happy.
Mm-hmm.
Or be really well cared for financially. Or that I can show up at this event and not suffer through it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Notice what seems impossible. And then out loud to yourself, it doesn't need to be to someone else, I declare the possibility of, and speak out what is the new possibility you're willing to hold a space for.
Yeah.
Just even making a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something simple, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Can be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I have a follow-up question to that. So, in terms of being open and looking for places where you're holding something as impossible, what can people, how can people find that? Like, what do you sometimes feel? Because I think that we are in that world, and we're used to doing that. For people that this is kind of a new idea to, what does like what does it physically feel like? What things might they be thinking where they can say like, oh, this is me holding this as impossible?
Yeah.
What do you feel like?
Fear.
But what does
Yeah.
it feel like?
Sweaty palms. Just wanting to retreat back to your comfort zone and kind of talking yourself through that and saying why you shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
And what the possibilities are of doing this thing outside of your comfort.
Yeah, pushing through, stepping outside your comfort zone versus retreating into it. Okay, perfect. So for our audience, in moments this week where what you really want to do is retreat back into your comfort zone, look at what about that you're holding as impossible, and then declare what might be possible instead. And no, just kidding. Declare it as possible. Jump outside of your comfort zone.
Not might.
It's not. You're not declaring an inevitability,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not something that is guaranteed to happen.
Right, just a possibility.
It's just a
of
possibility.
Something. Yeah.
There are an infinite number of ways life could go from this moment,
Yeah.
and I'm declaring the possibility of one of those ways.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
It might not go that way, but at least you're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're holding a space for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay. I'm
okay.
declaring the possibility.
Of this podcast ending.
Yes.
Good luck with that. Okay.
I'm glad I rejoined.
Thank you for tuning in once again and sticking it out with us. If anything came up for you during this episode, please do not hesitate to reach out to either Matt or myself or both of us. You can find us at cultivatingcouragepodcast.com. Matt, for those folks looking to connect with you, where can they find you?
Maddie Maxwell, Matty Maxwell on Instagram.
Perfect. You can find me on Instagram at Robinson Kristin, Kristin, or thrivecoachingstudio.com. Allison doesn't want to meet any of you.
Don't look for me.
Okay, cool. We will not post anything about her on the. If you want to see where you could not find her information, look on our website.
That's right. We'll put a non-link to all of her links.
Fantastic.
Goodbye, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
Bye.